Okay, there we go.
All right, let's do it.
Now we're back to streaming. Jeez.
We're
Let's see.
streaming. We're all back in
Yes, we're back. There's a notification, so now I know that we're back. Again, apologies. Uh, it's just one of those nights. Wait, what can you do?
Yeah.
But yeah, we were talking about Samurai Cop and how it's shit writing, and again, the only redeeming factor of this movie is the police chief, the captain of the department. Because he's just angry for no reason. Just constantly be like, "God damn Jones!" Like, God,
These
sounding like,
motherfuckers, raw. He's charmingly angry.
right. But it's like he's kind of like the only believable part. And
Yeah.
I mean, I said that it would be better if he, what is it? Kind of instead of saying why he hates Joe so much, um, but like to him to have like reasons, and it's a quick little adjustment where you just have the captain list off all the things that he's done wrong, like he shot the commissioner's dog, or he had a firefight, at a Girl Scout jamboree, or little things like that, and that would go a long way to filling in, kind of like backfilling the backstory for these characters.
Right.
Um, but yeah, we don't get any of that.
No, none of it.
So I mean, you can take what you get, what you can, but
But it's one of those movies where it's bad. Like it's just all around bad. But I think like why it's a good bad movie is because I think it tries to take itself seriously, but it fails miserably, and there's something charming about that.
right, it's in a weird way it's self-aware.
Yeah,
I mean, they're trying. They're God's honest trying to be something that's like Lethal Weapon, but they know that they'll never be Lethal Weapon.
yeah, it's a bad version of it's like the Jaws 4 of Lethal Weapon.
That's a very interesting way of putting it. Um, but yeah, because it's like they could have completely scrapped this movie. Like they didn't have to, market it or distribute it, or find distributors. They could have just let this thing die somewhere in some dark storage room at whatever studio that financed this movie. But they put it out. They distributed it. They even made a sequel to this movie.
I was just gonna say this. Like, not only did they like produce and make this one and release it, they made a second one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not like the Fantastic Four movie that they filmed and edited and was ready to go, but pulled the plug on last minute.
Well, the story behind that Fantastic Four one, it was the Roger Corman version,
Mm-hmm.
which they were trying to build this or make this movie at a very low budget cost. Which when you need to do that, you call in Roger Corman to produce it, and it was. I mean, they there was something behind it where it's like they were never going to release the movie. That's kind of like the secret behind it is they hired all these people and it was about like keeping the licensing of it, like the
Right,
movie.
right, right. It's kind of like, I think it's similar in that Fox made that Fan 4 stick,
God.
just so they can hold on to the rights, because I think the agreement was that they had to do like a certain amount. They had to make a certain amount of movies with it within a certain year, And
Yeah.
the year that the Fan Force Stick came out was the year that the contract was set to expire, and then the rights would revert back to Marvel, which
Yeah.
which would at the time, or by that time Disney had bought them out, so the rights would go back to Disney.
Well, I mean that was
Yeah, and so as to be really petty, Fox just it's like, oh, let's just make another just do another Fantastic Four movie. Let's just reboot the franchise, like just so we can hold on to the rights.
God, it was so awful. Oh, I'll say this: Samurai Cop might be better than that recent Fantastic Four movie.
I mean, I wouldn't go that great. They at least had the budget and the special effects.
Well, they had a pretty, Samurai Cop had a pretty cool practical effect where Joe cut that guy's arm off.
Okay, all right, you got me there. But yeah, this like I don't know I don't know who had information on who to get this movie made, but God bless them.
I will say that this is not the worst movie I've ever seen. I can think of at least 4 right off the top of my head that are much worse.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and obviously, this is way. I'm gonna say this movie is better than Last Jedi.
Well, that is true. I will say that Samurai Cop did not ruin a franchise.
Yes, it didn't. It. I mean, this could be debated, but it ostensibly created a franchise, seeing as that there was a second Samurai Cop movie.
Exactly, it created something. It didn't destroy something.
Exactly, and on that merit alone, I give it high praise.
And sure, the cinematography is shit. The acting is shit. The the story is god awful. The pretty much f's all around, but like I said, it didn't destroy anything, and I don't think that there was anyone's career that was destroyed or
Right, or negatively impacted.
yeah, and yeah, you know what? God bless them. All those people had they worked on one movie. I don't know how much they got paid for it, but you know what? God bless them. They worked.
God bless them. Bless their heart.
Yeah. But I'll agree with you. It is Samurai Cop is better than The Last Jedi.
It's
There's one
fact.
movie right off the
Fact.
top of the heap.
Right? Yeah. Fact. It's just better. It's just
Now I
better.
will say that we are. I am proposing a future theme month where Andy and I try to one up each other on like worst movie possible and try to find the worst.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe maybe a lot of. Uh, yeah, or maybe we can do like a revisit month, because there's some movies. Well, like what is it that Netflix movie with Will Smith?
Bright.
Yeah, I despite the absurd premise, I actually like that movie.
That's kind of like I've heard that like it was not that bad. I haven't seen it yet.
Right. And I remember you, and I forget, it might have been Eric. You kind of you gave me a few friendly ribs there over it, but if I'm remembering it correctly, I actually didn't think it was that bad of a movie. But maybe I need to revisit that. Revisit that movie, and maybe have like a fresh set of eyes, just to see how bad it is,
Yeah,
or
and
if
like
it
I
is,
said,
or even if it is that bad.
Yeah, well, hey, what that movie isn't? That movie is it's not Samurai Cop, so it's it's got that going for it.
True. This is true.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, again, maybe because I'm biased, I don't think I've ever really seen. I mean, other than Samurai Cop and Last Jedi, like I can't like really think of like a bad movie where I either reviled it or I lovingly reviled
well, Samurai Cop, I think it's hilariously bad.
it.
Uh,
Right.
that's and it's you can make fun of it, and it's kind of fun to make fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure the guy that played Joe would probably make fun of it, although
I mean, I hope so. I'd hope. I hope actors would be able to, laugh at themselves and be like, "Yeah, that was a really shit movie." But it's like,
yeah,
yeah, it's like, it's the beginning of my career. I had nothing to lose. And like $200 to gain. So, it's just like that. That's really cool. I could like respect that.
yeah,
From coming from an actor. Even like, even if it's like the one that made him, but it's like, it was so god awful though. But it's, but if they could still like admit it and be like, hey, but it got me to where I am today. Like, especially if they became like this big, successful movie star.
yeah.
Um,
Though I will say that I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Birdemic.
yeah, I saw it with you.
Oh, okay, that's right. I did show you that.
Yeah,
That movie,
we watched the riff track version, which I'm
which
glad
is
we
the
did.
only version to watch.
Which I'm glad we did because if I had to watch through like if I had to watch sit through Birdemic just straight, I we wouldn't be friends anymore.
Oh God, I wouldn't do that to you, Andy. I would have shot myself too. The I think we watched that too, like because we were. I think we were drunk, and like we ended up watching that, like and
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, I don't
that was a
remember,
lot
but
of
I mean,
fun.
I remember everything when I drink, but
Not like just completely gone, but like no, we were drinking that night.
yeah, I mean, that could be a possibility. But yeah, that
Uh,
movie was god awful.
Samurai Cop is Oscar worthy compared to
Yeah,
Birdemic.
yeah, Samurai Cop is a fucking masterpiece compared to Birdemic.
You know,
It had like the
so,
late '90s, early 2000s, like uh, graphics for like the birds and shit. It's like where they flapped their wings, but they stayed in like the same place.
It is. Think of Birdemic. Think of that as it is combining Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds and Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth and slamming them together and this unholy, just uh,
Yeah,
it.
ham fisted. That's the word ham fisted comes to mind.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it has like this overt, environmentalist messaging, and um, it's definitely pushing a narrative.
as
Um,
far as I know, that director of Birdemic has
mm,
made 3 films. Um, Birdemic, Birdemic 2,
mm,
and Julie and Jack. And they all have this same feel to them of just god awful. I mean, it's where like the actors like can't even talk like acting. Like it's
right, it's
they
very
don't even,
wooden and stiff, and
yeah, they can't even like walk correctly. That's the
yeah, that's right.
I am human. I walk
Like,
well.
hello, fellow humans.
Yeah, it's it's like Al Gore like short circuiting like yeah, and the one so in his movies you constantly have that one really like just disgusting friend that is always like trying to get pussy, but
Hmm.
like he doesn't necessarily do it like it's just it's so bad. But it's so great that it's bad.
Yeah.
I mean But you have to watch the riff. You have to watch the riff tracks version, otherwise you will shoot yourself in the head.
No, no, yeah. I mean, it's not watchable any other way.
No.
Because if you try to watch Birdemic, straight up, you will try to claw out your own eyes.
Yeah, if I don't even think the actors that were in that want to watch that movie.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure it's one of the things that they leave off their reel.
Yeah. But yeah, you know what? We talked about like Ed Wood a few months ago, and honestly, like this is the legacy. We get a lot of these type of movies now.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think Sci-Fi Channel they even embraced that whole like B movie thing. When they like they came out with like their mega successful Sharknado.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I'll say this about that. Like, I do like these type of films. Like, they're now. Trust me, there's a lot of bad ones out there, but I think it takes like a, s- a special talent to make movies that are so bad that they're good. And like it, I don't know what that magic formula is.
Hmm.
But I'm thankful for movies like Samurai Cop and Birdemic and like Santa Claus versus the Devil. I mean, these are great.
Santa Claus versus the Devil.
That is easily the worst Christmas movie I've ever seen.
Wow. Dude,
What?
I want to see this new movie that's coming out, starring Mel Gibson called Fat Man. But
Yes,
then,
I do. That movie sounds awesome. It sounds so good.
yeah, no, it's like it's a Christmas movie, but it's like kind of like spun like an action movie where
Yeah.
Mel Gibson plays Santa Claus, and his arch rival in this movie is like a 8-year-old spoiled brat.
Who hires an assassin to kill him?
Yeah.
That Andy, we are watching that movie.
No, for sure we are. For sure we are.
We're gonna grab some beers and we're gonna watch that movie together.
We're gonna watch the shit out of that movie.
Oh man, I can't wait. When I heard the premise of that, I was like, and Mel Gibson's in this. Oh, yeah, I'm there.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
That might be like one to like kind of like watch along the to do kind of like a double feature. We could also watch Payback.
We should just do a Mel Gibson month.
I'd be down for that
Mm-hmm.
because he has done more than Lethal Weapon.
This is true.
He's been in some good movies. Oh, and he's been in some good movies. He's been in some shit movies,
Mm-hmm.
but I love Mel Gibson.
Yep.
So far the worst Mel Gibson movie I think I've seen, it was the original Mad Max.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Because again, you
Yeah,
can't. It's not a dystopia if you have ice cream.
yeah. I also heard that initially when that movie was released,
Mm-hmm.
that they actually dubbed over um, Mel Gibson and a lot of the actors because of the Australian like accent.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. Most people may not even know that, but Mel Gibson's actually an Australian.
I
He just
I
worked really hard to get rid of his Australian accent.
yeah. To be honest, like I did not know that at all, and it was when we did Mad Max that I was like, oh man, he's doing a really great Australian accent. And when I looked up, I was like, he's from Australia? I would have never fucking figured that out.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. A lot of people don't realize it.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
mean,
kind of like Nicole Kidman. If I forget like it was like from her debut, but not in America. But it, uh, Nicole Kidman had like this really bad, like I think what they would consider like lowbrow accent.
Yeah.
and it's like it's. I heard it was described as like chalks, fingernails on a chalkboard being grated on a cheese grater.
Oof.
Yeah, it was like it was that bad. And then it wasn't until like her official like American debut where she went and got like like a speech therapist or a language coach and like just worked the shit out of her accent to
Yeah.
like a more posh sounding um, Australian accent. But even then, like she then went and you know worked on her American accent, which is important for people from other countries, particularly not non-American whites, to perfect their American accents. If they want to progress their careers outside of their home countries.
Yeah. It's I mean that, and there's a lot of people that might not know that she's you know not an
Australian.
American. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like Hugh Laurie. Um, those of you who are only familiar with Hugh Laurie from his stint
House.
on House, like they probably didn't even know that he was a British actor.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. He is.
yeah, and he was a he's actually a pretty brilliant one, like especially comedy actor, because he and what's that guy Stephen Fry,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, like they're both comedic actors, and they they worked together for a very long time, and they're very well known in England and the UK for their comedy. But it wasn't until like the early 2000s where he made the jump to American audience, and yeah, like if you didn't know any better, you would think he was an American.
Yeah. I certainly didn't know until I looked it up. I was like, oh, all right, he's an English actor.
Hmm. But I mean, I think but the name should have tipped it off out of anything. When's the last time you heard an American guy named Hugh? Well,
Yeah.
Hefner.
That's about it.
Yeah, but that's about it. Like Hugh is not a common like American name. It's not
No.
like a Bruce or a Lance. All the good masculine sounding ones.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah. Anyway, Samurai Cop. You know what? Go ahead if you're looking for a shitty movie to watch. That is definitely one of them. I can't say I highly recommend it, but if you are gonna watch it, watch the Riff Tracks version, and have a couple drinks and have share some laughs. It's a lot of fun.
Right, and just and watch the Riff Tracks version only, um, because if you try to watch it straight up, you're basically just punching yourself in the face.
Yeah,
All right. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, we're again kind of adapting on the fly here, but let's get into the toys that made us review.
sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Yes. This week's episode that we're reviewing is about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Pretty much like it's not just the toys; it's the brand. Um,
Yeah,
those
'cause
are.
it really wasn't just about the toys in this. I mean, obviously they certainly talked about the toys
Mhm.
and everything, but you really get kind of like a very like you kind of a quick history of the turtles.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. Those of you who didn't know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles started off as an independent comic book, made by two friends who had dreams of making it big within the comic industry. And their names are Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman.
Yeah,
Um, and well, at least in the episode, the story goes that one night, we're kind of jumping ahead, but they kind of randomly met one day, and and they kind of bonded over their love of comic books. But anyways, one night, because they subsequently moved in together. One night, they decided to just try to make each other laugh, and they just started, on a piece of, they just started drawing the most absurd thing that they could, and they would just kind of like, pass it back and forth between each other, and they would just try to make each other laugh. And so one night, I forget who did what first, but one night someone drew a turtle, and then the the other would drew in like ninja weapons, and the next the on the pass back, they put on a mask, and all of a sudden that it's kind of like lightning in a bottle,
Yeah.
that we have something here. And then they went on to self-publish a comic book. um, Initially they only made I forget how many, like maybe like 500 copies,
Yeah. Yeah.
or something like that, and they sold it to, or they yeah, they sold it at a local comic book shop, and then surprise, surprise, comic book shop called them up and said, "Hey, I need like 1,000 more copies because these things are flying off the shelves."
Oh yeah, and it's like, oh, now it's like when that happened, you're like, oh, we have something here,
Hmm.
and I think they ended up like quitting their jobs and focusing fully on the comic.
Right. It's one of those great American success stories.
Right.
Like Coke, or Disney, or 100 other different like small businesses, or businesses that are big now, but they started off at humble beginning. I mean, like an Amazon, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and so sooner or later, like uh, an upstart brand manager slash licensor got a hold of their comic book, and it's like there's something, and even he recognized like, oh, there's something here. And so he got Laird and Eastman to sign on. But one of the greatest things that happened for them was that they retained creative rights to the Ninja Turtles in all aspects.
Yeah.
Like so comic books, TV, movies, toys, the whole shebang.
Whatever.
They had like complete creative control over, which is very rare.
Yeah,
And
and
the fact that this like agent, um, got it for them was pretty amazing.
yeah, and he wasn't exactly like from some big agency. Like he was kind
Mhm.
of like just like them. He was just kind of like some guy that was hanging around like in his car most of the time, and it's like and he's like, well, let's make something big out of this, and the fact that he was able to kind of like he was kind of faking it in a lot of ways.
Right? Yeah. I mean, both parties. Eastman and Laird, and this guy, I forget what his name is, but they were both faking the funk. And they were absolutely the embodiment of that old idiom, "fake it till you make it."
Yeah.
Because the Eastman and Laird, they both they started up their publishing company, Mirage Comics. And Mirage Comics was just their living room,
Yeah.
in their shitty like studio apartment or whatever. And this brand manager guy, like he wasn't from a firm. He was completely independent, working for himself. He even said like he went and rented a power suit,
Yeah.
three piece, the whole shebang, to go and pitch these guys. And yeah, like even he was like faking the funk. Um, and then like when he went to go pitch it to like Mattel and Hasbro, and like all the big name companies, they all like turned him down.
They're like, this is stupid.
Yeah, it's like they didn't have the vision. They couldn't see Willis plane right. They couldn't see they couldn't see a brick of gold right in front of their face, but he eventually took it to Playmates, which if you're a child of the 80s or 90s, you recognize that name because like in all the advertisement they always say like Ninja Turtles from Playmates.
Yep.
And so you had like that strong like brand association. And it was actually the Ninja Turtles that put Playmates on the map because what is it? Playmates was a Hong Kong company.
Yeah, it was a company from Hong Kong that made dolls.
Yeah, like dolls for girls.
Yeah.
And so and even uh, uh, the president owner of Playmates Toys, he had ambitions as well. And so um, because they had one successful doll, and it was like pretty state of the art for its time because the doll talked and can give responses and things, and it was an interactive doll.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, the yeah the I think his name was Thomas Chan. Thomas Chan. He had a grand vision for his company, which he basically inherited from his father, uh, and which was one of like the biggest like toy manufacturers in Asia at the time. But he wanted to break into the American market, and
Yeah.
the way to do it just so happens to be for mutant turtles.
Yeah, and it was just I like the story of like you have all these guys who are really it's even the company Playmates like they really like yeah they had one kind of big toy that was kind of their success, but in reality they were just as much of an underdog, kind of like kind of like a loser like all of them, and coming together, putting all these characters together, really like it ended up being such a huge for everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
And like much of like the toys that we love, um, they especially here in America in like the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times it's like these are obviously marketed to kids. You had Transformers, you had He-Man, you have GI Joe, and then now like Ninja Turtles, which started out as a toy, but it's like no, we need to find a clever way to sell these toys to kids. Cartoon, and
Well, yeah, like ostensibly all cartoons are made to sell toys.
oh yeah, and they they're like, well, we need a cartoon to really promote the toys, and they were trying to initially they were going to try to adapt the comics into a cartoon, but like what people don't a lot of people I think that grew up in our time, like I don't know if they're very familiar with the comics, but they're much darker. Like it's kind of like
Yeah, no, yeah. The first one, like they basically kill Shredder,
yeah.
to get revenge for their master or whatever. I forget what the exact story is, but yeah, like there's a lot of blood and guts, and it's very dark. Um, yeah, and it's just like how do we adapt this for kids? And so that where there's a will, there's a way, and they were able to uh, give a little bit more depth to the characters or characterization, because it's kind of like because they basically took the Motley Crue uh, idea of having there's four turtles, so let's all give them different personalities. And it's like oh, Leonardo, he's like the studious leader of the group, and then you have to have a technology guy, and so that's Donatello, and then one you have to have one that's just like a smart ass, rebel type, and so you have that
Raphael.
Raphael, and then you have like the goofy comic relief, and which becomes Michelangelo.
The party dude.
Yeah, the party dude, because you can't have all of them have the same personality. I mean, yes, they're all they're all teenagers, but you can't make them all have the same personalities, because then you could just have one, and then the rest would be just redundant.
So yeah, so I mean, that was the cartoon. Like, and it not only was uh, it was a massive, massive hit. It was a huge success. And that, like, you and me, like, that was the cartoon we grew up on. Like, that was what I watched. And I honestly, like, even to this day, I have all the episodes on my computer. I still watch them. It's awesome. I love it. I still find it entertaining.
Yeah, it still holds up.
Yeah, the one thing I am kind of sad about is that I don't think I have any of my Ninja Turtle toys anymore. I used to have quite a few. Um, Even some of, like, kind of the like when they were doing, like, all the different iterations of the turtles, like the disguise turtles, or a lot of those different ones. So it's like I saw the one that was like, hey, I had that one. I know. Uh, I remember that.
Right.
So
Yeah, yeah. I remember I had the ones where like you could make them like mutate, so they go from like regular kind of turtle to like where you pull them out and like they become the Ninja Turtles.
I had those
And
too. Yeah.
yeah, and then I also had the one where like you had it. I think it's really clever, but like it had like these strips, and then you pass them through, and you can make them say things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had that one as well. But again, because my mother, I got to a certain age and she's like, "Oh, you don't need these anymore," and she got rid of them.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
so glad that, like, my mom understood. Like, I'm still, like, I got my Transformers here. It's like I told my mom, on no circumstances are you to get rid of these or give them to anybody else.
right. Yeah, no, like unfortunately for me, I had a few younger cousins after me, so all of my toys went to them, and I mean, I did my best to try and keep them as good a condition as possible, but as soon as they got their little grubby fingers on them, they're all destroyed.
I will say that, yeah, I don't know what it is. Like, I never understood, like, a lot of, like, my toys, like, they're still, like, in great condition. Like, yeah, okay, yeah, they're not in the packaging or whatever.
Hmm.
But the but they're not damaged and fucked up.
Hmm. Right. So yeah, it's really kind of a sad thing, but like I honestly don't have anything from my childhood. Um, but I still have the memories. So.
I think that, honestly, like, not only did this episode bring back a lot of great memories,
Hmm.
but I learned so much about the creators, and, like, how this whole thing, like, came into being,
Hmm.
and a lot of the ups and downs, tribulations that they went through in trying to create all this and, like, keep things going. And and even now, uh, the the turtles are kind of back on, like, they're on an upswing again.
Hmm.
And I thought what was kind of cool is that now we have generations that are turtles fans, like, where people our age who have kids, they're able to watch the new iteration of the turtles and kind of share that memory, that together,
Hmm.
which is awesome. I really, I think that's a great thing.
Mm.
Something so, like, it sounds so ridiculous. It sounds like it's such a dumb premise, but it's something that's really fun, and really can be enjoyed by anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there was ever a time there wasn't a Ninja Turtle series on TV. Like maybe towards like the late '90s. but but in the early 2000s, it picked up again. Um,
Yeah.
and I think even right now that there is a Ninja Turtles series going on right now by because I think Viacom bought the television rights, and so
Right. Yeah.
it's on Nickelodeon now.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, I remember just a few years ago, my a lot of my nephews they're watching Ninja Turtles. Uh, it's like, oh man, I used to watch this when I was a kid, and it's like, I was like, and then kind of like the standard answer from a little kid, like, you were a little kid. I was like, yeah, I didn't, I didn't enter this world this big.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah, even like it was like they were surprised, and and then like that was a point of bonding with my nephews. It's like, oh yeah, like Raphael was my favorite. It's like, yeah, mine too. Or it's like, no, I like Leonardo. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's like I had a stage where I liked all of them, except for Donatello. If I'm just be honest,
you're not a Donatello fan?
yeah, like I went through a period where like I liked all the like I liked all the turtles except for Donatello.
One thing that I kind I would think that would be kind of cool, like if we could get it, would be a there have been plenty of Ninja Turtles video games.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Oh, that's
but
one of the ones I had. I had a Ninja Turtles video game. The, la-
nice.
the last and only system that I ever had was which was Sega Genesis. And that was one of the
That was
games. I
the
think it was Turtles in Time.
Turtles in Time was the Super Nintendo game. The one they hold on a second. I know the I'm gonna pull it up real quick. The Sega Genesis game, which is also actually very good. Um, it was the what was it called?
Oh, Hyperstone Heist.
There, thank you. I was
That's the
Heist
one
on
I had. Yeah.
Heist. Yeah. That was a great game too.
It was. I liked that game. It was fun to
Yeah.
play. But
Now,
again, my mom, she got rid of my Sega Genesis.
I'm kind of like upset at your mom about that. I would like to play some Sega Genesis. That's the one thing I don't have is the Sega Genesis. I don't have any Sega games. Uh, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I know.
the,
I'm pissed off at my mom too.
yeah, no, that's a great game. Because there were so many like arcade style games that
Right.
the only kind of like action game was the original one, which was uh got mixed reviews at best. It's a good game. It is a fucking pain in the ass. It's a game that I have never beaten. I don't know if I will ever beat it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe one of these days I'll give it a go. But what I would really love to see is kind of like more of kind of like an action RPG style Turtles game, like kind of in a like Assassin's Creed style like gameplay. Where you
Oh.
go on like different missions and stuff like that. As you can, and they incorporate like kind of like the all the turtles together
Mm-hmm.
in some way.
Mm-hmm. That would
But
be cool. Yeah.
I think that'd be great.
Mm.
Maybe do it in the way of like kind of like the original turtles or something along those lines. But I think that would be like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Absolutely.
The
Totally agree with you.
Well, I don't really have too much else to say other than like honestly, this episode really made me want to rewatch the original cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of wanted me to kind of like see about like looking up and like finding some of the old toys and see if maybe I can pick some up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at least have like one or two of the turtles.
Mm. Yeah. It's so funny because every single episode or at least the last two episodes, always like, oh yeah, I had that. But then my mom threw it away.
Yeah, that's thankfully my mom didn't do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're also an only child, so
That too.
yeah. My mom is just like, it's like, oh, my mom was like, oh, you're too old now. Just give them to your younger cousins. It's like, but they're mine. Like, yeah, but
Exactly.
you're old. Like, but they're mine. You know.
uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, no,
I can never get her to understand that simple point.
right.
But they're mine.
But yeah, no, this is definitely the best. To me, I think this is the best episode of the Toys That Made Us. That
Mm-hmm.
because I've seen I think all of them
Mm-hmm.
outside of like I think like one episode, which I'll probably watch that one at some point.
Uh-huh.
But obviously, we've only reviewed a few of the episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But this is definitely um, my favorite episode.
Mm. Absolutely.
You have any other thoughts on it, Andy? Or
No, that'll do it. Yeah, I'm starting to really get pissed off at my mom now for throwing away all my toys. uh,
Korean moms just don't. They don't understand.
I know it's so weird. I mean, it's so weird because my mom, I would hope that my mom would understand, like being, especially like growing up in the time that she did, kind of post-war Korea,
Yeah,
just like and not having that much, and but it also informs her. It's like it's no extravagance, extravagancies, no superfluous things.
honestly though, I think I see some of those tendencies in my wife, or I'm
Oh
like,
really?
oh, yeah, it's like not. There's things like where she'll grab stuff, and it's like I can't get rid of this. It's like yeah, now you know how it feels. Like because I think honestly, like she looks I think a lot at like my gaming collection, and she's like,
Uh,
oh, and she has that look of uh like disdain.
uh, it's so weird because my dad is kind of like the pack rat. It's like he can't throw away anything. Like we still have stuff from like the 1970s.
It's not like tins of like tuna and stuff from the 70s, is it?
No, no, no. It's just like it's like really obsolete equipment,
Oh, I see.
like some stereo equipment, some like old tools that he would use, back when he did like landscaping and some like light construction stuff. It's just like stuff like he'll never use, but it's like, oh, one day I'm gonna use it again. You're like, when?
Yeah.
It's like it's like, and it's just like, and all it's doing is taking up space, but it's like he'll never like use it really, and he might as well just like throw it away, and then like when he needs to get some more, then he could just go and buy it. But just like he's gonna hold on to it forever, and then like one day, 20 years later, he's gonna use it. It's like, I told you one day I was gonna use it.
You got me.
I know, it's like you got me, but so like I think my dad like understands, like I think because my dad comes from a very large family.
Right.
He's one of 8 children. So he probably didn't grow up with like a lot of things that were his own. And
Right.
so like when he finally gets a chance to own stuff that's just his, I think he's a little bit more reticent to let go of it.
Yeah. That makes sense to be honest.
Yeah, I mean I know, like I think I'm like this perfect. I think I'm this balanced version of both my parents, because I can't let go of some things, but I also have like certain attachment issues
Yeah.
to my stuff. But I think I've gotten better where like now, like because my dad always kind of says like he always asks me to buy things for him online or whatever, and he always claims that he needs them. I'm just like, no, you don't. It's like it's only for camping, and we don't even go camping like all that often.
Right.
But then he always like retorts back. It's like, well, you always buy stuff for yourself, and you bought this and you bought this. It's like, but it's like stuff that I actually use, like a backpack or like pants or socks.
You don't
You know,
need pants.
and I was like, He's like, you have too many pants. You only have you only have 2 pairs of legs. Why do you need 3 pants?
It's like, what are you, a Rockefeller? Like, pants?
Yeah. Yeah, but again, it's like it's all stuff that I use, like either regularly or semi-regularly. So it's not as though like I'm just buying this stuff and then it's like taking room, in my garage or whatever.
Right, right.
But yeah, but then even but like obsolescence technology, I could definitely just like get rid of that. It's like it's no longer functional.
Yeah.
Like or there's something better that replaced it. So it's like there's really no need for this thing.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I don't know. I just can't wait to be a parent and just like turn to my dad and just like not throw away anything. And then
They,
my kid, and then it's just a vicious cycle, And then I'll do it to my kids, and then that who will do it to their kids, who will do it to their kids.
yes, sir. All right. Well, let's get on to the movie review for the week.
All right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I guess we never got to the Batman Dreamcasting, but yeah, we can
Well,
always get to that.
did you want to do that, or what do you want to do?
Nah, it's fine. We'll just do the We'll just talk about Sanjuro.
Why don't we can move that to another week, because I still need some time to think about that.
Okay, yeah, because I'm really thinking about like who I'd want to play Batman.
I can't think
I
of.
know, like right now, I can't think of an actor that's alive right now that I want to play a live action Batman.
Yeah.
Or at least, I mean, because admittedly, Batfleck wasn't that bad. I thought he was. I thought he was a pretty decent, like older Batman.
Yeah, I thought he was great.
Yeah, but yeah, because I mean, like voice wise, of course, like it's always going to be Kevin Conroy.
Oh yeah, 100%. Actually, there's an interview with him that I was just listening to a couple weeks ago. That I think that I'll send you the link. I learned a lot about that guy. It's very interesting, man.
Like personally, or just like stuff about TAS.
Oh no, it's about him personally,
Oh, okay.
and like what he
Yeah, send
went
it to me.
through, before he became Batman.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
honestly, it was a stroke of luck that he even ended up becoming the voice of Batman.
Mm-hmm. Uh, yeah. Yeah. Send that link to me.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyways, but yeah. Let's talk about Sanjuro. Again, Sanjuro is the sequel to Yojimbo. And it
Yeah,
follows the titular character. I don't know if it's necessarily titular, uh, yeah, Toshiro Mifune's character on another adventure where he, you know, lends his services to another group of uh, seemingly downtrodden people.
yeah, and so what this movie was actually supposed to be was it was this is another Kurosawa movie that was coming out that he was working on, but Yojimbo was so popular
Mm-hmm.
that he decided to like make this kind of like a semi sequel,
Mm-hmm.
and they decided to bring uh, have Mifune reprise this role as this kind of like no named character,
Mm-hmm.
which Sanjuro is just 30-year-old. That's all it means,
Mm-hmm.
and because he has no name,
Right.
he's just a wandering samurai.
Right. Well, what is it? At the end, the old lady, the mistress of the manor, she actually kind of gives him a name. I forget what it is in Japanese, but it's basically camellia, like
So
camellia
it's
flower.
Sanjuro Tsubaki.
Yeah, that's right, Subaki. She starts referring to him as Subaki, which in Japanese means camellia flower.
Yeah.
Because plot, kind of like plot device. That's what he uses to signal to his compatriots to come and attack the defenseless fortress that he infiltrates.
Yeah, and it's so this movie essentially Sanjuro, who is he's just kind of like in his wanderings. He's fell asleep at this like hut in like kind of like the middle of the forest,
Hmm.
and it's the movie starts off with this group of men who are talking about their town and like the corruption that's in there, and they have evidence of corruption going on within the government, and they're trying to they're trying to kind of get everything together, and that's kind of like where the events start. And it turns out that the person that they thought was going to be helping them was actually behind all the corruption, and it
Hmm.
leads to a lot of leads to the action of the movie. And it just so happens that Sandro overhears them and is like, "Oh my god, you guys are idiots," and he just has this like kind of like matter of fact, smart ass attitude, but like he's right. He's telling them like he's not telling them what they want to hear. He's telling them what they need to hear so that they don't get themselves killed.
Hmm.
And kind of uh like in Yojimbo, which we'll talk about at a later time, we don't really understand the motivation as to why like he even wants to help.
Hmm.
If it's like he feels sorry for the people, or it's just like I don't have anything else better to do, so why don't I just join in and help here?
Right. Well, again, we'll talk about it again at a later time. But in Yojimbo, he just seems like he's like a drifter, and he's taking advantage of this squabble between warlords in this town, to make a few bucks. But doesn't necessarily feel like he's doing it for some altruistic reason, as opposed to in Sanjuro, where it does seem like it's coming from a better place.
And maybe obviously, and none of this is told, but like maybe after the events of Yojimbo, like he has like a different heart about things.
Right, because it's like when I guess like in this case the rebels are talking about like, oh, how many men do we have? Like, oh, we have 9, but Sanjuro like immediately throws himself in. It's like, oh no,
We have
10.
10.
Yeah, like just kind of immediately like throws himself in without any real promise of like incentive or reward for doing so. But it's like it just seems like more like out of like some, again, like some altruistic sense that he has, or
Yeah,
maybe like even pity, where it's just like, oh man, another bunch of unfortunate souls.
right. And the something else like, and this kind of this goes back to Yojimbo as well, is that uh one of the one of the ideas that Kurosawa put in Mifune's head is that that he should kind of like play as like you're kind of like a stray dog in a lot of ways, like you're kind of like a stray wolf or a stray dog, and and one of the lead antagonists in Yojimbo was more of like this kind of like snake type creature, and the way that they portrayed those parts, you saw them kind of have these animalistic type of things that they would kind of just do in their
Right. These weird, these animalistic idiosyncrasies.
right. And so when you look at Mifune's portrayal of Sanjuro, he is always kind of like doing kind of like he'll do this kind of like like he'll kind of like shake his shoulders off, and it's like he's trying to like brush off fleas. That was kind of like what he would do to kind of like portray himself as kind of like this stray dog,
Mm-hmm.
and it was I don't know. I thought that was kind of like a cool little thing about the character. And Andy, you actually put out when we were kind of like sort of talking about the movie afterwards. You mentioned something that I found kind of interesting about like that. It's not just like that he's kicking off fleas, but it's more like an emotional thing that he does.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Because what I noticed is whenever he did like that shoulder thing, where it's like where it's like kind of like adjusting his shoulders, it's after some sort of like emotion, like some sort of moment where there's like emotions involved. Like either someone's like complimenting him, or there's like this swell of some like kind of emotion, and to keep himself from feeling those things, he kind of like he metaphorically like kicks them away. Like with his shoulder, it's like, kind of like that stressful feeling you get, like when you have that feeling where people like put a lot of like or you get that feeling where people are counting on you, and you have all this
Yeah, you have a lot of,
responsibilities.
yeah, you have a lot of weight and like pressure
Yeah,
on.
exactly. And so like you might you kind of like you'll in the at least in the Western in the Western custom, like you'll kind of like pull on your collar, and you'll kind of like back and forth. It's kind of like trying to release that tension. Similarly, I noticed that that's what Sanjuro did again when someone like when the mistress of the manor would like compliment him. It's like ugh, like he like kind of walk away, and like he would just kick up his shoulders,
Yeah,
just trying to get those feelings off of him. It's like, oh, feelings, get off me. Ugh.
yeah. And I think that was it's kind of like because this was my second viewing of this movie when we watched it together, Andy.
Mm-hmm.
And um I've actually, well, because I've watched Yojimbo, I've watched this movie a couple of times. I'm actually going to be watching a movie of him reprising that role in something completely different, that's not a Kurosawa film, where it's Zatoichi meets Yojimbo.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's a whole like different like director, and I think different. I think it might be the same. I think it's the same production company, Toho.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
But it, uh, but I think I'm kind of looking forward to watching that one just because it's like, oh, and I think it's in color too, so we might actually kind of like see. Um, I imagine that the garb that he's wearing is blue. That was like always kind of like my guess on that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but we'll find out.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Um, but I love this film, and the thing that's great about this one, the humor in this is very well placed. It's not just it's not a comedy film, but
Right.
they
It's not a comedy film, but there's humor, and it's in like it's in appropriate places.
yeah, it's well placed, and it really does break the tension because it's a serious movie, but it's just like it's fun at the same time.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Um, Most notably, like I love Sanjuro's like reaction to things, and like kind of like, God, you guys are freaking idiots, or it's like kind of like telling these because all of them are, I think, are like fairly young men, and he's definitely like kind of the older, kind of like surly guy of the group,
Yeah, the
and
world weary kind of type.
it's like they don't know anything about the world. And
Mm-hmm.
he has, obviously, from all his travels and through like everything he's dealt with, he knows like what the world's like. And he sees these guys like, who have good intentions, but like they're stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to help them, and it's like it seems like every time that he tells them to do something, and like they see that he's right, they're like, oh shoot, like crap, he's right. And then like just a few moments later, they just like oh well, screw this, we're gonna do what we want to do, and it ends up like costing them, like, it ruins
Right.
the
It makes things worse.
right, and it's like, and he's constantly having to like berate them, and it's like, you guys are stupid. Yeah,
Right.
don't.
Yeah.
And they finally, like, at the end of the movie, get it. It's like, hey, wait a second. What are we doing? Like, every time we like don't listen to what this guy says, we screw it up. So let's just do what he says for once. There was that. One of the other ones too was when they're working on trying to rescue one of the guys' families that like is being held hostage. One of the girls from his household escapes, and she was like kind of like trying. She was tasked with bringing those soldiers sake, but like she escaped, and they're like, and he's Sanjuro is telling us like, no, 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 she needs to go back because if she doesn't, they're gonna raise the alarm. And they're like, oh yeah, you're probably right. And so they asked her like, would you be willing to go back and just and to do that? And she's like, yeah, yeah, I would. I'll go back, no problem. And they're all like kind of dumbfounded by that. And you just see like Sandro with this like smirk on his face, like, now that's a samurai. It's like
Yeah.
it got,
Yeah.
poking fun at them and like how like just
Yeah, they're
weak.
basically call. Yeah, it's basically calling them sissies. And it's like, oh,
Yeah,
this girl has more balls than you guys.
yeah, which is a great line.
Yeah.
Um, the other, and then also there was a soldier that they captured who was kind of like, was really not a bad guy. He was just kind of like he had been a henchman of the antagonist,
Right.
but he kind of came around because he ends up telling them like stuff about like the organization.
Mhm.
And
Right.
but
Yeah. So
they
he gets
had,
converted basically.
yeah,
Because he was drinking the Kool Aid of what the this bag, I think it was the Chamberlain or something, like
yeah,
what,
yeah, the Chamberlain.
yeah, what he was saying, or talking smack about like the official government guy. But like after being in their midst and hearing their conversations, like, oh, now I know that you guys are actually the ones who are the good guys. And so like after that he starts giving them insight into the goings on of their organization. And you know um, when they're trying to come up with plans, it's like, oh, like, no, actually you shouldn't do that because X, Y, and Z.
Yeah,
um,
and but they had him like hidden in the closet, this closet, and
right. Oh
it's like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, I love the gag. The gag is the best, which is basically, it's like, you're still our prisoner, get back in the closet.
yeah. It's funny because they initially like you don't really like think like, oh, okay, they have him captured. They have him like hidden in the closet, and you think that's just kind of the end of it. And then all of a sudden, like there's one scene where they come back into the house, and like he's sitting there just like in new clothes and like he's eating
Mhm.
because the one guy's mom that they rescued was they felt bad for him, so like she would like she fed him and changed and how gave him a change of clothes, and they're like looking at us like, what the hell are you doing here? Why are you out of the closet? It's like, oh well, there was this and that. It's like, and then they just kept like looking at us like, okay, I'll go back in the closet.
Right.
It's like, and or towards the end of the movie, like when they're celebrating their victory, uh, and they're like, yeah, wait, and it's like, oh, it can't be too loud. Oh, yeah, and they're doing it silently,
Yeah, doing the
and then
happy
they
dance.
all stop and they stare at him. It's like, yeah, okay, and they just like
Yeah,
sheepishly
back in the closet.
in the closet. It's so great. Just well placed humor to break up the tension.
Hmm.
Um, and I love this movie.
Right.
Um, and even down to honestly like to the last one of the last scenes. I haven't seen every Kurosawa film, but the ones I've seen, you have not really. I mean, yes, there's been action, there's been a lot of fighting, but
Hmm.
there's not always a lot of blood.
Hmm.
And this is one of the few times where the where Sanjuro ends up killing one of the like their main henchmen. That was he's kind of like their
Right. Yeah, like kind of like in this context, like Sanjiro's mirror. It's like
yeah,
he's kind of the same as Sanjuro, but he's just a little bit more corrupt.
right. And he kills him, and he explodes in a in blood,
Hmm.
which is great. I mean, it looked awesome.
Hmm.
I love the scene, but it's just like I was kind of surprised, taken aback. I was like, because you don't expect it.
Right. Well, actually, that is the thing that I wanted to reveal to you. Um, that scene was actually an accident.
Really?
Yeah, because not the blood part. The blood part was supposed to happen, but not in the manner that it happened. Because Kurosawa had it where he did want to end the movie that way, but he didn't want like such a violent explosion of blood.
Okay.
It was just supposed to be like a little spray, and then he's supposed to go down, and that was supposed to be the end of it. But something happened where the tube or the hose or whatever that had the blood in it got over pressurized, and so when the moment happened, it exploded out.
That's amazing. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it feels very. Now that you mention that, it does make sense that that was a mistake because it's just so out of character for like a Kurosawa film. Because a lot of times, yeah, when there is blood, it's not just spraying out everywhere. Like it's
Mhm.
just like it's like you just see it kind of like falling out or like kind of how it's in a very natural looking way.
Right. Yeah, and it was funny because Kurosawa had a bit of a reputation for being very demanding. Um, and
He's the
so,
Cooper of Japan.
yeah, in the video that I saw that explained this, it details a story about him making a demand of the production, uh, like the production aides or whatever, and it's like, oh my fucking god. But again, it's like you can't argue with like the result though. But in this case, yeah, like the special effects guys, they thought that he was gonna lose it, like they were gonna get yelled at because it just like exploded. Um, but Kurosawa actually ended up really loving the effect, and it's like, oh, we don't have to do any more. We're done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and then um, and actually they were supposed and it was they were supposed to do multiple takes. But
yeah.
Kurosawa loved the reaction, from the actors so much because I'm sure they wanted to perform as well, and so
They
they
were
did they
surprised too.
yeah they were surprised, but they didn't show it. They didn't feel like, oh crap, as to not ruin the scene. But
Yeah,
again, Kurosawa and like even uh, Sanjuro's mirror, the actor guy, the one that you know that has to carry the blood pack.
Matsuro was his name.
Yeah, Matsuro. Like the explosion caught him. It was so big and caught him so off guard. He nearly fell over uh, because of it. But he did his damnedest to maintain his position or his
Yeah.
stance, and then eventually fall over as he was supposed to. But like that it exploded with such violence that it almost like knocked him over.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was, and again, like the production guys are like, oh shit, we're gonna get yelled at. But Kurosawa was like, no, I like it. We're keep it. We're done. We're wrapped.
I love it too. Like it's kind of like to me it was like I would have never thought that scene was gonna end that way.
Hmm.
Um, and so yeah, I was caught off guard and I was surprised by it, but I liked it too. And I even commented to you like that, the game that I was talking about like a couple months ago, Ghost of Tsushima, they would have like the standoffs. where yeah, it was essentially like that scene, like you could do to like guys that you were having like duels with.
Mhm. Interestingly enough, the video that I watched, it does go on to explain that that mistake went on to create one of the most iconic tropes in all cinema. Like it's like like whether people are aware of it or not, that they do it themselves. Like even
Yeah,
in modern times, like some of the examples that he gave was
you
in
know,
this video was like
Tarantino.
in Dragon Ball Z, where Trunks kills Frieza and he's like slashes through him, and then all of a sudden like blood spurts out, or
Yeah,
Samurai Jack, when he's fighting a robot assassin, Jack slices through him, and then all of a sudden it's not blood, but all of a sudden like a huge wave of oil comes squirting out,
yeah,
and just like and that is from uh, Sanjuro. All thanks
yeah,
to Sanjuro, that mistake that happened in Sanjuro.
yeah. There's a lot of animes that have that like that style of scene, and it's like now that you mention it, it's like man, there's so many things that like you and I'm thinking like as far as like movies that came out here in the West. I mean, Tarantino watched this movie because Kill Bill has a lot of that like same stuff,
Exactly, exactly.
uh, and honestly, like a lot of anything with like some sort of like Japanese theme to it, like
Hmm.
that is a trope that's used quite often. I was like, what?
Right,
And
yeah,
now,
like especially like the duel and like the standoff, and like especially like the ones where like they run at each other, and then you see like a flash, a clang, and then you see like the two samurais at opposite ends of each other, and then like splurt and then fall.
yeah, um,
Again, all thanks to Akira Kurosawa.
it was unintentional, but this movie has a lot of cinematic archaeology.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. It's been a while since we said that.
Yeah, well, I think we've not that we've gotten away from it, but like
Hmm.
we haven't really had a lot of cinematic archaeology. We've just been discovering new things.
Right, yeah,
But this movie ended up being an unintentional cinematic archaeology.
yeah, absolutely.
With what any particular scenes that you enjoyed, Andy, or is there anything else that you have to say about Sanjuro?
No, I really love this movie. It was great.
You know,
I don't have too many complaints. Nor do I have that noteworthy of criticisms. Um, yeah, this movie was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I would recommend it to anybody.
yeah.
And it's one of those movies, and it's a movie where you don't necessarily even have to watch the first one.
No, you don't. That this is kind of like one of those sequels where it's like, yeah, you don't really have to have watched. They're kind of like anthologies, like Yojimbo and Sanjuro. Like you could watch them out of order, and you wouldn't really lose anything.
Right, exactly.
And it's funny, because we obviously, it was I think it was last year now that we did this, but like our top five favorite movies. Well,
Hmm.
it's not making my top five, but Yojimbo slash Sandro, because I can't really disconnect them.
Uh,
Uh, they are definitely in my top 10.
hmm.
Um, I'm not sure where in the top 10 they are, but
Hmm.
it's there. I mean, this is so far. This is definitely my favorite Kurosawa characters, slash, kind of like storyline is
Hmm.
the Yojimbo Sanjuro story.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not saying that it's in the top five. I'm not necessarily even saying that's in the top 10, but this movie, and Yojimbo are pretty high up on my list.
Yeah. So I highly recommend it. Go watch it. It's great.
Hmm.
especially if you love like old Japanese black and white Japanese movies. Which I honestly I've really been on a I've been watching a lot of old Japanese movies recently.
Mm.
I don't know why. Maybe it was. I think it was. There's Ghost of Tsushima really kind of like got me interested again, and then obviously, our friend of the podcast Eric, and some other people have been talking to me about it, and I was like, what, let's go down this rabbit hole, and so I've been watching a lot of these movies recently.
Yeah, no, Japanese cinema is very influential. Like whether you know it or not, you know, as we'll get to in the East versus West theme for next month or this month, uh, a lot of things were borrowed or copied or downright stolen from Japanese cinema.
Yeah, Tosher, and there, yeah, and obviously, like, well, that's the theme of this month. That the East versus West is like, I would have never uh, known about, like, yeah, because we're gonna be comparing Yojimbo and Fistful of Dollars,
Hmm.
and there was actually a lawsuit with because of that,
That's right.
and and then you also have like the idea of like where people watched like in Seven Samurai, Yul Brenner was inspired as like, this is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen, and he was inspired as like, we need to make something out in the West that has the same spirit as that.
Hmm.
Thus we get the Magnificent Seven.
Hmm.
uh, or you even have like George Lucas, like he's watching like a lot of these movies, and specifically Hidden Fortress is like, and he incorporated that kind of like some of the tropes from that movie into Star Wars.
Hmm.
So yeah, Japanese movies have been a huge influence on the West, more so than I realized.
Hmm.
um, and in one case, like I think the West had some influence on Japan, because Godzilla is, when you look at the original, it's like, oh man, like this is their version of King Kong.
Right. Yeah. So it's
It's a hand in
yeah,
hand.
I mean, yeah, yeah. There's definitely, it's an exchange. It's definitely an exchange, and I think that's like where the best art comes from. Where it's like, you see one thing in a certain context, and you're like, hey, this could work in this context, and then you kind of, even though you are inspired or borrowing from this one thing in this certain context and applying and you're making a completely new thing. I mean, even if you are borrowing, copying, stealing.
Yeah, and I honestly think that Toshiro Mifune, like he is a terrific actor.
Yeah, no, it's like,
He
it's weird. Like I would say that maybe, and maybe it's just because he's the only Japanese actor that I know, but I think Ken Watanabe is kind of Mifune-esque.
he does have a lot of those. He does have some Mifune in him, yeah.
Hmm.
And well, the other guy that I really like too is, well, there's a couple of guys. There's I think his name is Takeshi Shimura, the guy that was the lead samurai in Seven Samurai. He's
Hmm.
a brilliant actor.
Hmm.
Um, and then the guy that plays Zatsuichi, the blind swordsman.
Hmm.
Uh, I forget his. It's like what's his name? I'm drawing a blank on his name. But he's also a really great actor too.
Yeah, I
I have,
like his performance.
yeah, I don't know if he's done anything other than the Zatoichi films, because he was in so many of them. There's
Hmm.
27 of those movies.
Wow, that's a really popular. That's a really popular IP.
Yeah,
They
and
even like they even started remaking them, right? And like when like like I think we saw like a few trailers that were like in color, and they're like probably
right.
like made in like the '70s or
There's
something.
there's two. I think there's two remakes. Like there was one in like the I think like the early '90s, and then there's one that was in like the 2000s, which aren't I haven't seen them, but like I just there's something about the actor that was the first son or first Zatoichi that he's such a brilliant actor. And I don't know if he's like I said I don't know if he's done anything else because he was in so many of those fucking films that like it's they were making like they were churning out one after the other, and they're actually all really good so far. I've
Mm,
seen like 5 of them so far, and they are all really good.
let's see.
But yeah,
Cool.
that's all I
All
gotta say
right.
on Sanjuro.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Safe to say, me and Robert both highly recommend this movie. And again, the cinematic archaeology in this movie is uh, is profound.
Yeah,
And we're like one of the greatest tropes in in samurai films and in action movies ever. Like even just like in like the Western equivalent, where you have like a scene where someone the hero beats the crap out of a character, and like they're still left standing, and they walk away, and then like they fall over. That's still that you can still draw a line to that scene in Sanjuro.
yeah. It's a very. I didn't even know that this was the movie that kind of created that. So
Yeah, I mean,
that was
neither was I. I just like it's weird the synchronicities. I was just going through my YouTube, you know, uh, you know, front page, and I was scrolling down, and all of a sudden, there was a video with the movie poster for Sanjuro. I was like, huh, that's kind of weird. So I click it, and then it talks about like the scene that created the greatest trope in action movies,
yeah,
and it just so happens to be talking about that scene at the end.
yeah. Um, I can't recommend this movie enough. I'm definitely gonna be watching it again. This is a movie I could rewatch a bunch of times, and I think I would still enjoy it.
Mm, absolutely.
What's your rating on this, Andy?
Oh, I'd maybe give it a 4.5, like depending on the day.
All right. To me, this is a 5-star movie for me.
Okay.
I love Toshiro Mifune.
Hmm.
I think he's one of not just a brilliant Japanese actor. I really think he's just a great actor in
Right.
general.
Yeah. No.
Um,
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
I think the story is it's very compact. It's not hard to follow along at all.
Hmm.
It's the all actually to be honest, all the actors were really great in this movie. Everyone played their part very well.
Hmm.
Um, I was engaged the entire time.
Hmm.
The it's a serious movie that has a lot of like comedic relief when needed, and yeah, I can't recommend this movie enough. This is one of those movies that like it was I didn't know that this is a movie that I needed to watch, and I'm kind of glad that I kind of went down this rabbit hole and I found this movie.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, like the only reason why I'm like knocking it a point or half a point is purely a structural thing. And that's just I think it's a little jarring to be just dropped right into the story right away.
We've watched a lot of movies like that because I bring up Easy Rider again, but yeah, we're really just kind of dropped into that universe out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just
Um,
like it's just like all you're just like introduced to like these new characters, and then like they're setting up like they're setting it up, yes, but then all of a sudden Sanjuro shows up, and it's like, oh no, you guys are idiots, and then and then all of a sudden the action happens, and just like you're just in the movie, you're just in the story at that point, and it's a little jarring, as opposed to just allowing yourself to like kind of like slowly walk yourself into the shallow end and then eventually into the deep end. Um, yeah, I mean that's really the only thing I'm knocking it for. Otherwise, yeah, it's a great movie.
I get what you're saying on that. Like, and I think this is one of the few movies where I think that there was a reason as to why that was done,
Mm-hmm.
and that's because Sanjuro, like, he has no name, he's a wanderer,
Mm-hmm.
and so he kind of tends to drop in on people's lives. In Yojimbo, he kind of does that too, where like he walks into town
Mm-hmm.
and he kind of sees like that, oh, this is a pretty dangerous place to be at, and like so he starts to out of nowhere starting to help like kind of manipulate the situation to kind of like restore the town. And in this one, like he's just kind of like taking a nap, and these events happen, kind of like the events kind of just kind of fall in his lap, and so we're just like kind of like him, we're just kind of you know wandering around, and oh, here's a situation. um
That is a good point. That is a good point.
Whereas like in the problem with Easy Rider was where it's like I felt like we were like where the movie started. That's where a movie ends normally. We were watching like an epilogue and of a movie,
Right,
which
because
is
it doesn't like yeah, because Easy Rider, it never like explained why he was Captain America. Why Dennis? I forget what Dennis Hopper's name was, but like why his name was what it was. Um,
yeah,
there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of backstory that needed to be. There's more story than what we were given. And so
yeah.
like as the story went on, it just felt like like there's something like it almost felt like an inside joke where it's like I don't get what's going on.
Yeah,
But
and
that's a very good point about Sanjuro, where it's like oh well, it's like kind of like the events just kind of like formed around him. He was just minding his own business, taking a nap in that shrine or that inn or whatever.
yeah.
Um, that's a very good point. But but even in the context of Yojimbo, where he just like walks into this town, there's still like a little bit of a setup where you have like the father and son like arguing, saying like, oh, I don't want to be a farmer anymore. I'm gonna go to the city and make my fortune and blah 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 blah.
True. Okay, yeah, yeah. I mean, there is a little bit more of like it's not just dropped in on you, but
Hmm.
normally I would agree with you. This is the one movie I kind of don't agree with that because I think it works.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Wasn't really meaning for this to be a review, but it is what it is. Robert gives us a 5. I give this a 4.5, depending on the day. I might, you know what? Because you made that very good point about just kind of the action just started forming around him. I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
All right,
Um,
all right. Hey, it's very rare where I come up with the point that changes your mind, Andy.
that's very true. That's very true. Yeah, because it is one of those rare things because I usually take it. I usually am able to see the broader picture and able to see multiple points of view before coming to my conclusion. But yeah, this is the first time that Robert persuaded me, and so
Hey, every dog
break
has.
out the streamers.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be celebrating tonight. I'll sleep well.
I know you'll be able to tell your wife that you got one over on me.
Oh yeah. You know I'm gonna tell her, and then she's gonna bring that up tomorrow and be like, Andy, Andy.
All right. Well, yeah, there you have it. Both Robert gives us a 5. I give this a 4.5. After much reconsideration, thanks to Robert's point, definitely recommend this. Highly recommend this. Must watch this movie. If you're doing, you're really doing yourself a favor by watching this movie.
I will reserve to say that this is Kurosawa's best film because I haven't seen them all.
Mm,
But so far, this is the best one I've seen.
yeah. So so far so good. All right. Well, that's will do it for us tonight. Um, yeah. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I know this will be broken up into two segments up on the channel, but appreciate you sticking it out. If you got this far, don't forget to check out the library of other shows that we got. The Circle of Jerks main podcast, Nocturnal. We have episodes of Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Robert's Gaming Show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter and LetterboxD at PodcastCOJ, and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you again. We'll do it all again next week. So until then.